Hi, it's me again. This is Don from the farm at Fairplex, giving you a few ideas about how to sow some seeds with everyday items at the home that you may have laying around. Things you can use to entertain your kids and start a garden. I have a piece of paper here. I'm going to make a pot out of it, or a paper pot. You don't need any special tools or anything. This is newspaper, but it can be any kind of semi-flexible paper that you have. I'm just going to roll it around my container here, about 1.5 times around. I'm going to cut it off here, the extra paper I have. I'm going to take this and I'm going to overlap this into itself. See, I had folded it first, forgot to show you that. And I'm going to basically do a little origami move and insert this into itself, like that. I'm just going to put it back on this container just to use as a reference to kind of get a little tighter. And then I'm going to take it and plate the bottom of it. And voila, I have a paper pot, like that. I'm going to set it in this little container I have here. There we go. So I'm going to bring down what I've got here. I have these things here, if you can see them right there. They are toilet paper rolls, toilet paper roll covers. I've cut into different pieces of different heights for different seeds. Some of those I've already planted. I'm going to put some soil into these right now. This soil mix I'm using, I'm filling them with, is a mix that is made out of peat moss, a little bit of coir, C-O-I-R, which is coconut husk, and it has some white material in it, little pieces here called perlite. And it has some little gold pieces in here, kind of hard to see, but that's a vermiculite, kind of gold silver flakes. The peat moss helps hold moisture, and so the coir does, and it also helps stabilize the pH a little bit, keeps it low. The perlite allows oxygen to get into the potting mix, air to move freely, because plants have to have air going through their roots. That's why if they sit in water too long, they die, have problems. And the vermiculite helps hold a little bit more moisture. So I'm going to take this little pot, I'm going to put some soil into it, I'm going to set it here, and this will be the last one to fill up my little tray of seedlings I'm doing here. Okay, I've got a bunch of different seeds. I've got sunflower seed, lettuce seed, other things sown in here. This is lettuce seed. It's pretty small. A bit of trash in there. Sometimes you get some when you buy it. The seed's black, really, really dark. I'm going to sow 3 seeds. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now the question is, how can I tell I sowed 3 seeds? So that's the trouble with lettuce seed. Lettuce seed is so small and so tiny, it's hard to see if I sowed it. So if you have the chance to go online and buy seeds, you might consider, if you're working with little kids, to buy pelletized seed. It costs a little bit more, not a lot, a little bit more. So instead of getting 200 lettuce seeds for $3, I might get 100 lettuce seeds for $3 that are pelletized. So the seed is coated with an organic material. It's not a commercial waste product. It's recognized by Organic Society. It's fine. And it helps the seeds so you can see them. So I'm going to put these seeds in the container here. I'm going to put 3 seeds. Little kids can see those seeds. They don't have trouble trying to sow them. They know exactly where they went. So I can hold this up and you can see them. You can really see those seeds in there. You can see exactly where they went. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of potting mix. Now, lettuce seed is very, very tiny and has to have light to germinate. So I only want to cover it a smidgen, just 1/16 of an inch at most. But I got to keep it moist. And so that's the problem with sowing lettuce outside. It doesn't always take off outside very well. This is mammoth sunflower. These are huge sunflowers. You're going to get to 10, 12 feet tall with 1 to 2 foot size sunflowers on them. But the seeds are really tiny. Who'd want to eat those in your bag of dried seeds? They're mainly growing for the size of the flower and just fun things in the garden. You can't eat them, but they're not worth eating. They're really small. Sunflower seed likes to be buried about 1/2 inch into the pot. So I'm going to put these into this pot here, push them down in a little bit more. Bury them a little bit more. And that one is going to get covered with a little bit more soil. So they're about 1/2 inch buried right there. A little bit more. This is potting mix. Never use soil from the garden. If you put soil from the garden in here, or something that has a lot of wood product, it can rot and cause a lot of problems with your seedlings growing. Outdoor potting mix has problems because It contains a lot of wood products and sand. Houseplant mix are designed to be in small containers and to drain and get appropriate air for your plants, and that's why they work really well. Dirt from your garden is just horrible to grow seeds in like this. Outside, sowing directly in the ground is one thing, but in a pot it behaves totally different and it causes a lot of problems and insect issues. So all the other ones have got different seeds. There's basil in some and things like that. So now I'm gonna, and they've all been watered in, but I'm gonna take my turkey baster now. I use turkey baster to water when I'm doing small things because I can easily control and make sure I do not overwater or knock all my seedlings out of place when I'm growing them. So I'm going to water this in. And what this is doing, now these over here I'm going to give a little bit more water. These over here have all been watered before. So I just give enough water here so that this paper will get saturated and the water will drain down. The seedlings will grow. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cover this with its plastic lid. Now this is a to-go container from food. We're supporting our local businesses right now. And so this is from The Habit. Right there, you can see it on the clear lid. These are great little containers. They lock well and they enclose well as they snap on. And I have a little mini greenhouse. So instead of going outside and buying one from someplace, or going online and ordering a $20 or $30 little greenhouse growing kit, I have made my own out of paper, toilet paper rolls. This was a bag of potting mix I got at the dollar store for $1, and that potted all these little plants, and I have about half of it left over. Or you can get a bigger bag at Home Depot if you want to, but it works well. And it's set to go, and I got the lid on it. Now this will act like a little growing chamber. Now it's very important that I keep an eye on this. Now I want to put it in bright light, 3 or 4 hours of sunlight in the morning, or bright light all the rest of the day, but no hot afternoon sun on it, because inside this plastic container it can overheat. It can trap the heat in. It insulates really well and traps all that radiation in there and heats up. So what will happen though, as soon as those seeds start to just come above the top of the soil and they just start to curve up and sprout, I'm going to take the lid off, and I'll take this lid off, leave it in the same spot, and let the seeds come up then. Most of these seeds germinate in 5 to 10 days, so they all should be pretty close together. Some might be a little faster. So some come up before the others. Take the lid off early, then don't wait for the other ones, because the other ones will come up. They'll be germinating, and the root will be growing down in the soil, but the top won't be coming up quite yet. But by the end of 7 to 10 days, we should see everybody sprouting up. The reason I'm going to take the top off is that I leave it on here too long, is that those seedlings are going to stretch. So the area between the root and the first 2 leaves is called the hypocotyl. And that is an area between the root tip and the cotyledons. So the cotyledons are the seed leaves, the little leaves hiding inside that seed. They look different than the first true leaf. So when that comes up, you want to make sure those hypocotyls stay nice and compact. If they get really tall and leggy and start to bend, like I see a lot of people online, they let their seedlings get 4 or 5 inches tall before they take them out of the chambers. They don't transplant well. Usually they die, or they get very weak, or they get disease infected. And they're subject to insects and all kinds of things. So once they start to come up, you want to get rid of all that excess humidity around them that's keeping the seed moist, and allow it to dry some, and so the seedlings grow up and stay small. That also means that each day you're going to move it a little more light. So 3 hours of sunlight in the morning, forward, a little bit farther, move it to a different window, and then as they're all slightly up, some will be a little taller than others. You want to set this outside in a bright area, eastern exposure, a couple hours of sunlight in the morning, shade in the afternoon. Then the next day, a little more sun, move them out farther until they get about half-day sun. If it's going to be really, really hot, pull it back in a little bit, but if not, keep it out in the sun. And as soon as those plants get 2 or 3 true leaves, so it'll have its 2 cotyledons, and it'll get its first little true leaf, it'll look a lot different than the cotyledon. It gets a second, it gets a third one. By the time the third one there, they should be ready to transplant into your garden. Now, in the plastic pot, you should take it out, but the paper pots, the little cardboard pots, you're going to just stick those right in the ground, and you'll want to keep the soil, so you can see, you're not going to plant it to the top of the pot. See where the soil is inside, you're going to plant them to the top of that soil, so the pot may stick up a little bit around the outside edge. That's fine. Don't bury them too deep. Keep them in there. Another thing you're going to do is that you're not going to give them, once they're enclosed like this, you're not going to give them any more water until the lid gets off. Then after the lid comes off and the seedlings are going, in 2 or 3 days, you're going to take any kind of houseplant fertilizer you have. I don't care if it's a houseplant fertilizer, it will work, but you're going to dilute it in half. If it says a tablespoon per gallon, you're going to put a teaspoon and a half per gallon of water. It says a teaspoon per quart, you're going to give it a half a teaspoon per quart. Then I would mix it up. I'd put it like a pickle jar or something like that. Mix up enough so I don't get too much fertilizer in the water. And then keep that in a dark area. Put it in a cabinet someplace so the kids can't get to it. Label it your fertilizer water. And then take it out, and every 2 days, you're going to give each little chamber just a little bit, like a tablespoon. You don't want it to run down through the bottom. You don't want to dump the water on. You're just going to give it a splash. They'll absorb that nutrients and they'll really start growing. And every 2 days, you're going to do that. When they go outside, every time you water it then, when they're in the tray, they may get watered every day a little bit in the morning or in the afternoon. You're going to give them, when you water them, you're going to give them a little bit of fertilizer with the water. Your seedlings will grow so fast and develop so nice to look like the ones you bought at the store, because at the nurseries, they're fed fertilizer every time they're watered. And as they get a little bit bigger and we move outside, you can start upping it to the more higher concentration. You can maybe do 2 teaspoons per gallon, or 3/4 of a teaspoon per gallon, or whatever it needs for what size of container you have. But based on the fertilizer, you cut it about 2/3, cut about a third of it down, so you put about 2/3 of the fertilizer in. Make sure you do that and keep the seedlings growing. They cannot starve, because if they get starved here, remember that sunflower, it's going to sprout, and in 80 days that sunflower is going to flower. And in 80 days, if you didn't feed it and you left it, you say I went away for a week and I left it in here and it's only this tall and I come back as this tall and I come back as this tall, it's only going to be about this tall when it flowers, even though it should be 10 feet tall. You got to keep them growing, got to keep them moving. So as soon as you can get them out into your garden or into a bigger tub in the sun, and most of these need at least 8 to 12 hours of sunlight a day to grow correctly, you'll be fine and you'll do well. Okay, so I'm going to put the lid on this like that. I'm going to make that little greenhouse up. And get it on there. There we go. Get everybody in there. I'm going to go set this in a night bright area, and we will come back and look at this in about a week and see how it's doing. Okay, again, this was Don Delano from the farm at Fairplex. Hope you're all doing fine, and have a great day.